The corporate executives were having their high-stakes business meeting at the corner table, discussing hotel acquisitions and hospitality management strategies. The barista cleaning nearby tables listened quietly, occasionally smiling at their obvious mistakes she'd seen destroy entire hotel chains. Welcome to Interesting Human Stories. Before we dive into this compelling tale of hidden expertise and second chances in the hospitality industry, tell me in the comments what city you're watching from today, and if you believe that true service excellence never fades, hit that subscribe button. These stories remind us that leadership skills transcend job titles. The alarm clock buzzed at 4:30 a.m. just as it had every weekday for the past 2 years. Maria Santos rolled out of bed in her small studio apartment, showered quickly, and prepared for another day behind the espresso machine at Morning Brew Coffee House, a neighborhood cafe in downtown Portland that served a loyal clientele of office workers, students, and local residents. By 5:45 a.m., Maria was unlocking the cafe's front door, turning on equipment and beginning the precise routine that would ensure every customer received consistently excellent service throughout the day. She moved with practiced efficiency, grinding beans, checking milk temperatures, and arranging pastries with the attention to detail that her coworker attributed to natural perfectionism. At 38, Maria had been working as a barista for 2 years, following what her colleagues assumed was a career in food service or retail management. She was reliable, skilled at managing difficult customers, and possessed an intuitive understanding of workflow optimization that had quietly improved the cafe's operation since her arrival. What her coworkers didn't know was that Maria Santos had spent 15 years as a general manager for Constellation Hotels, one of the world's most prestigious luxury hotel chains. Her most recent position had been as GM of the Constellation Grand Chicago, a 5-star property with 480 rooms, 3 restaurants, and a staff of over 600 people. Under her management, the Chicago property had maintained a 95% guest satisfaction rating, earned a AAA 5 Diamond designation, and been recognized as one of the top luxury hotels in North America by multiple industry publications. She'd managed annual revenues exceeding $80 million and had been personally responsible for hosting heads of state, Fortune 500 CEOs, and A-list celebrities who demanded flawless service and absolute discretion. Maria's hospitality career had begun modestly, with an entry-level position at a mid-tier hotel in Phoenix, while she completed her degree in hospitality management at Arizona State University. Her combination of natural leadership abilities, attention to detail, and genuine passion for customer service had been recognized quickly by supervisors who mentored her through increasingly responsible positions. By age 28, she'd been promoted to assistant general manager at a Constellation property in Denver, where she'd learned the complex art of luxury hospitality management. The role required mastering everything from revenue management and staff scheduling to VIP services and crisis management, all while maintaining the perfect balance of warmth and professionalism that distinguished 5-star service from ordinary customer care. Her breakthrough had come during a challenging period when the Denver property had been dealing with a series of operational problems that were threatening its luxury reputation. Maria had identified systemic issues in staff training, guest services protocols, and interdepartmental communication that were creating the cascade of problems affecting guest satisfaction. Working 18-hour days for 3 months, Maria had completely restructured the hotel's operations, retrained key staff members, and implemented service standards that had restored the property's reputation and exceeded previous performance metrics. The corporate leadership had taken notice, and Maria had been promoted to general manager of the Chicago flagship property at age 32. Managing the Constellation Grand Chicago had been the pinnacle of Maria's hospitality career. The property was Constellation Hotel's crown jewel, a landmark building in downtown Chicago that had hosted presidents, movie premieres, corporate summits, and society weddings that required absolute perfection in every detail. Maria's typical day had begun at 6 a.m. with department head meetings to review the previous night's operations and prepare for the day's challenges. She'd managed a complex ecosystem that included front desk operations, housekeeping, food and beverage service, event planning, security, and engineering, all coordinated to create seamless experiences for guests who paid premium rates for flawless service. The job had required skills that went far beyond traditional management. Maria had needed to understand revenue optimization strategies that could increase profitability without compromising service quality. She'd needed to master labor management techniques that could maintain full staffing during peak periods while controlling costs during slower seasons. Most importantly, she'd needed to develop the crisis management skills that were essential for handling the inevitable problems that occurred when managing a complex operation serving hundreds of demanding guests daily. Equipment failures, staff emergencies, guest complaints, security issues, and unexpected events like power outages or severe weather required immediate response and creative problem-solving abilities. The beginning of the end had come during what should have been one of Maria's greatest professional triumphs, a 3-day international business summit that brought together Fortune 500 CEOs and government officials from 12 countries. The event had been planned for over a year, with every detail coordinated to showcase the Constellation Grand's capabilities. But on the first day of the summit, a kitchen fire had damaged the main restaurant and created smoke damage throughout several floors of the hotel. The fire department had required evacuation of affected areas, the sprinkler system had caused water damage to guest rooms, and the entire event had been thrown into chaos. Maria had managed the crisis with the expertise that had made her one of Constellation's most respected general managers. She'd coordinated with emergency services, arranged alternative dining venues, relocated affected guests to comparable accommodations, and maintained service levels that had impressed even the most demanding attendees. The crisis management had been textbook perfect, earning Maria praise from corporate executives and grateful recognition from summit organizers. But the stress of managing such a complex emergency had taken a personal toll that Maria hadn't fully recognized at the time. What had destroyed Maria's career hadn't been her handling of the kitchen fire, but the investigation that had followed. Corporate auditors, reviewing the incident and its financial impact, had discovered accounting irregularities in the hotel's food and beverage operations that appeared to show systematic theft of inventory and cash. The fraud had been orchestrated by the food and beverage director, a trusted department head who'd been manipulating purchase orders, inflating vendor invoices, and skimming cash from restaurant operations. The scheme had been sophisticated, involving fake suppliers and falsified inventory records that had hidden the theft for almost 2 years. Maria had known nothing about the fraud, but as general manager, she'd been held responsible for the oversight failures that had allowed it to occur. Corporate executives had questioned how such extensive theft could have continued without her knowledge, and industry investigators had suggested that the fraud indicated systemic problems in her management practices. The media attention had been devastating. Hotel industry publications had covered the story extensively, focusing on the failure of management controls at one of the industry's most prestigious properties. Maria's name had been associated with the scandal, despite her lack of involvement in the actual theft. Constellation Hotels had conducted an internal investigation that had cleared Maria of any personal wrongdoing, but the damage to her reputation had been irreversible. The hospitality industry was small, and executive positions required trust and credibility that had been compromised by her association with the fraud scandal. Corporate executives had offered Maria a transfer to a smaller property, but it would have represented a significant demotion in responsibility and compensation. Alternative offers from other hotel chains had been withdrawn when background checks revealed her connection to the Chicago incident. More damaging than the professional consequences had been the personal impact. Maria had spent 15 years building a career based on excellence, integrity, and attention to detail, only to have her reputation destroyed by crimes committed by someone she'd trusted. The betrayal by her food and beverage director had been professional and personal, as this was someone she'd mentored and considered a friend. Depression had followed, along with anxiety and insomnia that had made it impossible for Maria to consider returning to the high-stress environment of luxury hotel management. She'd needed time to recover emotionally and psychologically from the trauma of watching her career collapse despite her innocence. The job at Morning Brew Coffee House had been found through a community job placement service that helped people transition to new careers after professional setbacks. The work was completely different from hotel management, simpler, less stressful, and free from the complex responsibilities that had defined her previous life. Initially, Maria had viewed the barista position as temporary employment while she figured out her next career move. But gradually she discovered unexpected satisfaction in the work. Making coffee required attention to detail, customer service skills, and quality control standards that were familiar from her hospitality background, but at a manageable scale. The cafe served approximately 200 customers daily, compared to the thousands of guests and visitors who'd passed through the Constellation Grand Chicago. The work was physically demanding but emotionally sustainable, without the constant pressure and crisis management that had characterized luxury hotel operations. Most importantly, Maria had found peace in the anonymity that her new role provided. She was simply Maria the barista, not Maria Santos, GM,
with all the expectations, responsibilities, and public scrutiny that executive positions entailed. Working at Morning Brew had given Maria a different perspective on hospitality and customer service. She'd observed the cafe's operations with the analytical eye of someone who'd spent years optimizing complex business systems, noting inefficiencies and missed opportunities that could improve both customer satisfaction and profitability. The cafe's workflow was poorly designed, causing delays during morning rush periods that frustrated customers and stressed employees. Inventory management was haphazard, leading to frequent stockouts of popular items and waste from overordering of slow-moving products. Staff training was minimal, resulting in inconsistent service quality and missed opportunities to build customer loyalty. But Maria had kept her observations to herself, understanding that offering unsolicited business advice to her employers would raise questions about her background that she wasn't prepared to answer. She'd focused on doing her job well, providing excellent customer service and maintaining the low profile she'd come to prefer. However, she'd been unable to completely suppress the management instincts that had made her successful in luxury hospitality. Maria had quietly implemented small improvements in her own work area, organizing supplies more efficiently, developing systems for managing customer orders during busy periods, and training newer employees in service techniques that improve their tip earnings and job satisfaction. The morning that changed everything had begun routinely, with Maria preparing the cafe for the breakfast rush that brought office workers seeking their daily caffeine fix. At 8:30 a.m., 4 men in expensive suits had taken the large corner table and ordered drinks that suggested they'd be staying for an extended business meeting. Maria had delivered their orders with the professional courtesy she provided to all customers, but she'd recognized immediately that these weren't typical cafe patrons. Their conversation, which she'd overheard while cleaning nearby tables, had involved detailed discussion of hotel acquisitions, hospitality management strategies, and industry trends that were completely familiar from her Constellation Hotels days. The men were executives from Meridian Hospitality Group, a private equity firm that specialized in acquiring and restructuring underperforming hotel properties. Their conversation had focused on a potential acquisition of a struggling luxury hotel chain on the West Coast, discussing operational improvements and management changes that could restore profitability. Maria had listened with professional interest, noting that their analysis contained several fundamental misunderstandings about luxury hospitality operations. They'd focused heavily on cost reduction strategies without adequately considering the impact on service quality that distinguished luxury properties from budget accommodations. As the meeting had progressed, Maria had found herself mentally critiquing the Meridian executives' acquisition strategy. They discussed eliminating concierge services to reduce labor costs, not understanding that personalized service was essential to maintaining luxury positioning. They'd proposed reducing housekeeping standards to improve efficiency, not recognizing that room quality was directly correlated with guest satisfaction and pricing power. Most concerning had been their plan to replace experienced department heads with lower-cost managers, not understanding that luxury hospitality management required institutional knowledge and relationship-building skills that couldn't be quickly replaced. "We could probably cut operating costs by 30% within 6 months," one executive had said, "and still maintain adequate service levels for the market segment." Maria had involuntarily winced at this comment, knowing from experience that such aggressive cost-cutting would destroy the property's reputation and competitive position within a year. She'd seen similar strategies fail repeatedly during her Constellation career, leading to declining revenues that more than offset the temporary savings. Unable to remain silent while watching what she knew would be a catastrophic business decision, Maria had approached their table with coffee refills and had quietly commented, "Excuse me, but I couldn't help overhearing your discussion about the hotel acquisition. I think you might want to reconsider the cost reduction strategy." The Meridian executives had looked up in surprise, not expecting business advice from a coffee shop barista. The lead executive, a man in his 50s named Richard Brooks, had smiled condescendingly and said, "I appreciate your interest, but this is pretty complex hospitality industry analysis." Maria had recognized the dismissive tone she'd encountered many times during her corporate career, particularly from men who assumed that attractive women in service roles couldn't possess sophisticated business knowledge. "I understand it's complex," Maria had replied calmly, "but eliminating concierge services and reducing housekeeping standards at a luxury property will drive away the high-revenue guests who justify premium pricing. You'll save money initially, but revenue will decline faster than costs." Richard Brooks had studied Maria more carefully, noting her professional demeanor and the confidence with which she discussed hospitality industry concepts. "You seem to know quite a bit about hotel operations. What's your background?"
Maria had hesitated, knowing that revealing her experience would inevitably lead to questions about why a former luxury hotel general manager was working as a barista. But the conversation had reached a point where partial honesty was necessary. "I used to work in hotel management," she'd said simply. "What kind of hotel management?" Brooks had pressed. "General manager level, luxury properties, about 15 years of experience." The conversation that had followed had been surreal for both parties. The Meridian executives trying to understand how someone with extensive hotel management experience had ended up working in a coffee shop, and Maria speaking about hospitality industry strategy for the first time in 2 years. She'd walked them through the fundamental flaws in their acquisition strategy, explaining why luxury hotel operations required different approaches than mid-market properties, how service quality directly impacted revenue performance, and what alternative cost management strategies could improve profitability without damaging the guest experience. "You seem to understand luxury hospitality better than most consultants we work with," Brooks had admitted. "What property did you manage?" Maria had taken a deep breath before answering. "The Constellation Grand Chicago." The table had gone quiet. Even private equity executives knew the Constellation Grand's reputation as one of the country's premier luxury hotels. Brooks had looked at Maria with new interest and growing recognition. "Maria Santos," he'd said slowly. "You're Maria Santos, the GM who managed the International Business Summit crisis. That was brilliant crisis management. But I heard there were some problems afterward." Maria had nodded. "Accounting fraud by a department head. I wasn't involved, but it ended my career in luxury hospitality." Brooks had exchanged glances with his colleagues, then made a decision that would change Maria's trajectory once again. "We need someone with your level of expertise to help evaluate this acquisition. Would you be interested in consulting with us on the project?" The consulting arrangement had begun modestly, with Maria providing analytical support for Meridian's hotel acquisition strategy during her off hours from the coffee shop. But her insights into luxury hospitality operations had proven so valuable that Brooks had offered her a full-time position as a senior consultant specializing in hotel acquisitions and operational improvements. The role had allowed Maria to return to the hospitality industry without the operational stress and public visibility that had characterized general manager positions. Instead of managing day-to-day hotel operations, she'd analyzed potential acquisitions, developed turnaround strategies, and provided expertise that helped Meridian make better investment decisions. Her first major project had been the West Coast luxury hotel chain that Meridian had been considering. Maria's analysis had identified operational improvements that could restore profitability while maintaining service quality, leading to a successful acquisition and restructuring that had exceeded financial projections. Word of Maria's expertise had spread through the private equity community, and other firms had begun requesting her services for hospitality-related investments. She'd developed a reputation as someone who understood both the operational complexities of luxury hospitality and the financial metrics that drove investment decisions. 2 years after the chance encounter at Morning Brew Coffee House, Maria had rebuilt her career in a form that was more sustainable and personally satisfying than her previous role as a general manager. She'd maintained an apartment near the coffee shop, partly out of loyalty to the place where her life had changed direction, but mainly because she'd come to appreciate the neighborhood's unpretentious character. Morning Brew's owner, Jennifer Walsh, had been amazed by Maria's career transition, though she'd admitted that she'd always suspected her star barista had more extensive business experience than her resume had indicated. "You ran that coffee shop like it was a 5-star hotel," Jennifer had told Maria during her farewell conversation. "Customer service, operational efficiency, staff training, everything improved after you started working here." Maria had trained her replacement personally, ensuring that the systems and service standards she'd quietly implemented would continue after her departure. She'd also recommended several operational improvements that would help the cafe continue growing its customer base and profitability. Richard Brooks had become more than a client. He'd become a mentor who'd helped Maria understand that her career setback at Constellation had been a temporary obstacle rather than a permanent barrier to success in hospitality. Maria Santos had learned that expertise didn't disappear when careers were interrupted by circumstances beyond one's control. The skills that had made her successful as a luxury hotel general manager, attention to detail, customer service excellence, crisis management, and operational optimization, had served her well as a barista and had ultimately enabled her return to hospitality at a higher level than before. The coffee shop experience had been more than just a career transition. It had been a form of professional rehabilitation that had allowed her to reconnect with the fundamentals of service excellence without the pressure and complexity that had made hotel management unsustainable after her traumatic experience. She'd also learned that the hospitality industry, despite its reputation for being insular and unforgiving, still valued genuine expertise and authentic leadership. The private equity consulting role had allowed her to influence hotel operations across multiple properties, potentially impacting thousands of guests and employees in ways that her previous single-property focus hadn't permitted. Most importantly, Maria had discovered that professional setbacks, while painful, could lead to opportunities that wouldn't have been possible through conventional career advancement.
Her combination of operational experience and personal resilience had made her uniquely valuable to private equity firms seeking to improve hospitality investments. Maria Santos continues to work as a senior hospitality consultant for Meridian Hospitality Group and other private equity firms, where she's become known for her ability to identify operational improvements that enhance both guest satisfaction and financial performance. Her expertise covers everything from luxury resort acquisitions to boutique hotel turnarounds. The skills she developed during 15 years of hotel management, refined during 2 years of coffee shop service, have made her one of the most sought-after consultants in hospitality private equity. She's helped restructure dozens of underperforming properties, trained hundreds of hotel managers, and influenced industry standards for service excellence. Morning Brew Coffee House continues to thrive, implementing many of the operational systems that Maria had quietly developed during her time as a barista. Jennifer Walsh has expanded to 3 locations, using service standards and training procedures that Maria had recommended based on her luxury hospitality experience. The Constellation Grand Chicago has recovered from the accounting scandal and continues to operate as one of the country's premier luxury hotels. Maria occasionally stays there when consulting in Chicago, enjoying the professional irony of being served by staff whom she'd once managed and trained. Her story has become something of a legend in hospitality circles. The general manager who lost everything to accounting fraud but rebuilt her career from a coffee shop, ultimately achieving greater influence and financial success than her original executive position had provided. Maria Santos has proven that true service excellence transcends job titles, workplace settings, and career setbacks. Whether managing a 5-star hotel or making coffee for neighborhood regulars, the principles remain the same: attention to detail, genuine care for customer experience, and the understanding that hospitality is ultimately about creating moments of comfort and satisfaction for people during their daily lives. From the executive suites of luxury hotels to the espresso machines of neighborhood cafes, Maria's journey reminds us that the desire to serve others well can find expression in any environment, and that expertise, once developed, never truly disappears. It just waits for the right opportunity to emerge and make a difference once again. So now I ask you, have you ever encountered unexpected hospitality expertise in someone whose job seemed unrelated to the service industry? Someone whose attention to customer service seemed far beyond what their position required? Someone who turned setbacks into comebacks through sheer determination and hidden skills? Share their story in the comments. Because here at Interesting Human Stories, we believe that true service excellence isn't about fancy uniforms or prestigious titles. It's about the fundamental commitment to making other people's experiences better, whether you're managing a luxury hotel or brewing the perfect cup of coffee. If this story moved you, subscribe and share it. Help us honor the service professionals who continue excelling long after their circumstances have changed, who find new ways to serve others regardless of their current job title. We'll see you in the next story. Until then, remember, the person serving your coffee, helping with your order, or working quietly behind the counter might be carrying more hospitality expertise than you could imagine.